Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Sunday morning start-sit stream here on the Going for Two Live network. My name is Kyle Senra, joined as always, in fact, longer than I've even been on the show, Jamie Perog. Always great to talk to you, Jamie. I know that guy. How are you doing?
I just want to wish everyone a happy National Tight Ends Day. It's always celebrated, every fourth Sunday of October?
Well, the Packers don't celebrate it. They don't have good tight ends. Just kidding.
Oh.
They do. They actually do now. So
we haven't for a long time.
Yeah, no, Topher Kurt, best Packers tight end since Michael Finley, honestly. So that was well over a decade ago. So good job, Goodikins.
Yes.
But yeah, happy National Tight Ends Day. Happy week after 10-year college anniversary, Topher. Which is why you couldn't be there last week, but super happy to have you back. Welcome back. Woo.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here. I actually had my grandparents' 40th wedding anniversary party last night in Iowa. So I drove up to Iowa. For me, that's about a 6.5 hour trip. Drove up there, celebrated for 3 hours, drove back, got home at about 1:15 in the morning so that I could be on the show this morning. So I woke up 12 minutes ago.
The dedication you're putting.
I was like, I couldn't miss 2 weeks in a row. I can't be that guy. So if my eyes look a little red or like I'm about to cry, it's just because I'm still waking up. I haven't done my morning cocaine yet. So
I was gonna say, if my eyes look red, that's not the reason.
Zach!
Yeah, no one is more excited for Topher to return than Zach is.
Yes!
It was a disaster last week. I think we actually gave
this is
good advice.
Zach, you're the reason that I drove over 12 hours yesterday. I drove just for you, Zach.
Actually,
so we can give him the wrong answers.
I was thinking, well, we gave him all the right answers, just not everyone on the panel gave the right answers. Because last week it felt like on Zach's questions we were always split. We ended up being 5 of us on the stream last week. So
that's awesome.
So Zach, I guess you had to pick and choose which of us to trust. But now he's just going to listen to Topher.
Yes.
Yeah, so ask away, Zach. Anyone ask away your start-sit questions. You can join us on the Going for Two Live YouTube channel, also on Twitch and Facebook. Feel free to comment, ask any questions away. We'll try and get to them as efficiently as we possibly can this morning. Before we get there, National Tight Ends Day. What a way to celebrate George Kittle's questionable in a Sunday night football game. Tight ends. So that's a tough position to kind of have a late game questionable player for. So make sure you prepare yourselves. I actually answered this question, I think, on the I think it was the Fantasy Six-Pack Discord. But also check out the Going for Two Discord. If you asked the question there, I would have answered it too. And funny, Zach starts with the tight end question. So once we get past this George Kittle thing, I think if you have him as a tight end, I mean, there's so few tight ends you'd rather play than him, and likely those guys are all like heavily drafted. Like you probably don't have Kittle and McBride on the same team, or Kittle and Bowers, Kittle and Jake Ferguson, Kittle and Evan Ingram, right? Like those are all guys drafted in such ranges that you probably don't have. You've Kittle and some other, like the person asking was like Kittle, Noah Fant, or Dalton Schultz. My thinking was go pick up Theo Johnson, another Canadian tight end. So I know Jamie loves that, with a high relative athletic score. So this is totally up Jamie's wheelhouse. Giants play Monday night. So whatever random wide receiver depth or even like tight end depth you have behind Kittle, I've got no problem cutting them for Theo Johnson as a 1 week kind of spare. Kittle plays. Oh, great. Kittle's in. That's great. If he doesn't, though, you've got that Monday night replacement that you can replace with Kittle without having to decide beforehand. Like if you put Noah Fant in right now and Kittle plays later, I mean, unless you can throw in a flex spot and play 2 tight ends, which I guess on National Tight End Day is the worst thing, but likely you're stuck kind of having to decide to leave Kittle on the bench. So the Monday night player gives you that flexibility. Play Kittle up until he's out, then you pull him for Theo Johnson and all's fine. You don't take it.
Yeah.
I think Theo Johnson ended up being like, I was in a dynasty league where my only option was picking up Eric Sobert, the 49ers backup tight end. So like if at all other possibilities are gone, just pick up Eric Sobert. Again, if you have to drop him next week to go pick up the player you just dropped to pick him up, that's fine. Just protect yourself from getting that 0. But I think Theo Johnson's the great option. I know for a fact Jamie's going to agree, so we don't even have to tell him. Because, again, high relative athletic score. But, yeah. All right, got a few questions in the chat. So I'd ask Zach, or sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I love it that we've got questions flown in already. Like this is
Yeah.
good stuff. That's
So
what we want
starting
to see.
National Tight End Day with a tight end question. Thank you, Zach. Very appropriate. Asking Cade Otton or Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Auden just because of the vacated targets in that offense. I think he's gonna get an uptick, and he's been pretty solid.
How about you, Topher? That's really the only answer that Zach cares about, but thank you, Jamie, for
I am going to go Otton primarily because Drake London, the last 3 times that he has faced the Buccaneers, has gone off and lit them on fire. So the fact that London does that, I don't think there's a lot of room for Pitts to have a big game and for London to have a big game. And it just seems that this is London is the Buccaneers' kryptonite. So I'm going to Otton here.
I thought, like, when I first saw it, oh, yeah, it's going to be clearly Otton. And I'm looking at my rankings. They're actually back-to-back. So I've got Otton at tight end 13, Pitts at 14. Cade Otton. Looking at my goal line guide, the Falcons technically do have a higher goal line grade than the Bucs do for passing, but the Falcons' rushing score is so much higher that their differential for the passing game is actually negative, whereas the Bucs' rushing score is below average. So, like, the Bucs actually have a positive differential for their passing game. So while the grades are super close and even, but it looks like it's more likely for the Bucs to score passing touchdowns than the Falcons. So yeah, Cade Otton. All 3. So that doesn't matter what we said, but yeah, Zach will love Topher's answer. We also have John 12-24. Pick 2. Start George Pickens, Devontae Adams, or Brian Thomas Jr. Topher, we're talking about Adams, former Packer. Do you want to start off here?
Yeah, I'm just double checking matchups real quick because
we got Adams against the Patriots. Thomas is playing our Packers, and Pickens plays the Giants on Monday night.
Ooh, okay. I even went to look for Las Vegas for
yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, Christian Gonzalez has been pretty good this year. But Rodgers is just going to funnel things to Adams. We know that that's going to happen. So it's between.
Do we know that Gonzalez is going to be on Adams and not Garrett Wilson?
That's true.
Question.
Yeah. Pickens now with Russell Wilson. They're a great pairing skill wise. And I am such an avid BTJ truther. But they do face Green Bay, who has actually locked down some wide receivers lately. Made CJ Stroud look like Will Levis last week.
In fact, I think Will Levis threw for more passing yards in his game against the Packers this year.
Yes, he did. Yep. So, I'm starting Adams. I'm starting Adams no matter what. I just think with Adams, with Rodgers, you can't sit him. You can't sit him at all. I'm leaning Pickens, and I don't like that, but I think Pickens has a much better matchup against the Giants secondary than BTJ does against the Packers secondary. And it's not just because I'm a Packers homer. I'm looking at what happened with Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell last week. Like, they got squashed. And so I love BTJ, but I'm going to put him on the bench.
And he might be getting shadowed by Jair Alexander. I know that was something we discussed on the Full Press Packers pod this week, and my co-host Jesse wasn't so convinced of that. He thought, like we saw last week, they just stick to their size, and sure, like Alexander was on Dell a lot of the time, but I think that was more just where Dell was lined up more than have to shadow him. I could see them also kind of taking that approach, like, hey, as good as Thomas is, he's not good enough that we have to shadow cover him because we feel confident with everyone. So he might get off Alexander and not be covered by him all that much. Truthfully, I view Pickens actually as the must start for sure. I've got him as a top 15 receiver, well, number 15 this week, so that's top 15, barely. Here's the thing. I'm really skeptical of Adams right now. 9 targets last week is amazing, and he finished as like the wide receiver 56. So, like, as of right now, I know I saw ECR this week. Last time I checked, Adams was actually ranked higher than Garrett Wilson. I really don't get that. I think Wilson's still the guy you want the most. because Wilson also got 9 targets. So I mean, Rodgers clearly shows he's going to target Wilson maybe just as much, if not more, than Adams. So I still view Wilson as the number 1 receiver on the Jets. So I don't necessarily view Adams as a must start. In fact, I have him wide receiver 32 this week, which would be a step up from last week. So I'm expecting him to do better. But I feel like the ECR ranking of him being top 20 is a little premature. Like, let's see him actually succeed with Rodgers in this offense. It's Rodgers and Adams together, but it's also not the Packers offensive line. It's not Matt LaFleur designing Adams a bunch of like great looks in the slot. I didn't really watch game last week. WNBA finals were on. It was game 5, so it was like the do or die game.
Much more important.
Yeah, for sure. Was Adams played in the slot at all, or was he just kept to the outside? Like, does anyone know that, Jamie? You know that?
I haven't looked that deep into it.
Okay.
I don't look for those things. I just go yay or nay.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm a very simple man.
Okay.
But I'm looking last week. Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, and Devontae Adams all had 9 targets last week. Breece caught 6 of them for 103. Wilson caught 5 of them for 61. And Adams only caught 3 for 30. 3 out of the 9. Oof.
And I was wondering, like, is that more because of downfield routes, like difficult depth of target that they might try to connect on, but also makes it harder to do? That's why I was really curious if he was playing in the slot.
Okay, so now seeing that, because I remember Adams being involved a lot. I didn't remember him.
9 targets is something like we love to see that, right? Like that would look better than if it was 3 targets for 3 catches. Like, okay, he didn't get enough, like he wasn't involved, right? Like this is at least a better sign. The catch rate's awful, but
correct.
You take the targets.
I'm going to look at what. So last week, this helps. BTJ played the Patriots last week, so this can kind of give us a good idea. So
I thought he did well.
There were only 20 pass attempts in this game. BTJ went 5 for 5 for 89.
Got that big play potential, and also that downfield.
And one of his catches was for 58 yards. Otherwise, everybody else was held to under 35 yards or less. But Evan Ingram was 5 for 5. Dearness Johnson was 3 for 4. And then Kirk and Davis each had 1 reception on 3 and 2 targets, respectively. So they didn't do a whole lot of passing. Tank Bigsby, there were 39 rushing attempts in the game. Tank Bigsby had 26 of them. So, I mean.
But that playing the same Patriots defense now, like this applies to both, right? Like, how does Thomas do against a shadow corner? But also, could the Jets just go super run?
You've convinced me. I'm going BTJ over Adams. And again,
looking at the ECR this week, it feels like a lot of people are instinctively taking Adams, but I'm not as convinced right away. So yeah, I'm going Pickens, BTJ.
I appreciate you calling me out like that and being like, yo, look at this.
I'm calling out all the experts who ranked Adams as a top 20 guy, right? Like, if you look at consensus rankings, and I know you do a big job of that, there's probably a lot of people I just don't get, especially him ahead of Garrett Wilson. I really don't get.
Yeah.
Jamie, what do you think?
Well, I already answered this question about 17 hours ago for this guy. I just told him to get your opinions. So he knows why I'm starting.
Thanks for joining us, John.
Pickens, definitely. He's in my top 12. It's pretty simple. And I've been thinking about this, man. And Adams is good enough to beat Gonzalez. And we don't know if he's going to shadow him or Wilson, because Gonzalez does shadow like 3rd highest rate in the league. So I'm going to go Adams just because of the talent.
All right. So I think the one thing we're all on is like Pickens is the best place. You have to absolutely start Pickens. As far as it's like, he's probably close to a must start with Russell Wilson.
Yeah, Pickens for sure.
As someone who was just jamming Pickens into the lineup every week with Fields, like now you definitely don't turn away from it. Now you
no.
Dive further.
No.
All right, Roger. Roger joined us every week, so appreciate Roger Abelos for showing up once again, asking a great question. Caleb Williams or Kyler Murray? This is tough because I think I've got both as top 10 quarterbacks. So it's also one where I don't know that there's a bad answer necessarily. And that rushing upside with Kyler is just, I probably rank him too highly every week, but he's QB5 for me this week. Williams is QB7, so I don't think you can go wrong, but I would lean
Yeah, I got Caleb QB7. I put Kyler a little bit farther down, still in the top 12. It's just that Miami secondary is elite. And yeah, he does have that rushing upside, but I mean, Caleb against one of the worst secondaries in the league, Washington. Come on, it's pretty simple. I actually have.
They've gotten better.
That didn't help. That didn't help Andy Dalton last week.
Yeah, they used to be the worst. They are now 7th. The past 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I believe, 3 of the matchups, they kind of let the quarterback not score as many points.
The Miami Dolphins have allowed the least amount of passing yards per game this season so far.
Yep.
At
And
150.
just came out, so
although someone made the argument that now he's sponsored with Call of Duty, he's probably had it for a few weeks.
Right?
The past few weeks, so
and maybe that's it. So maybe we were too late on that.
So the Dolphins are giving up 154.5 passing yards per game. Like that's low. The next lowest is the Jets at 164.7. The highest is the Ravens at 287.1. So the Dolphins are almost allowing half the yards that the Ravens are passing wise. I'm going Caleb Williams. on this. I think that
I have to start sit, and I'm sitting Kyler for Williams.
Yeah.
To be fair, as someone who probably ranked Kyler too high last week, I'm probably still ranking him too high. As it is, Roger. But I don't mind Kyler in that matchup because so much of his production comes from rushing. If he just runs for a 40-yard touchdown, suddenly he's having
correct.
I know Michael's in the chat here. A couple weeks ago, like 3 weeks ago, I told him this week you are going to sit Kyler for Caleb. And I told that 3 weeks ago just because of the matchup.
I guess, yeah. And apparently Call of Duty being put out. So, Daniel Howland saying, good morning, gentlemen.
He's always here every week, too.
Yeah.
Love it.
Join us on Facebook. So, again, lots of platforms you can join. We're going for 2 live stream on. Brian Robinson or James Cook, full PPR? Jamie, what are your thoughts on this? Like, where do you have them ranked?
I got them both outside the top 20.
Top 20?
Dang.
Yeah, no.
Like,
I got James Cook, obviously about 5 spots higher, so I'm gonna go with James Cook.
He's my RB8 this week.
That's really interesting because
he was 25 last week, so maybe.
Yeah, but Seattle has allowed the 4th most rushing yards on the season at 146.1. Like their rushing defense is not there. I think, and the Bears have only allowed 112, which is just 11th in the league. So there's a big discrepancy there. I think for that. Also, I think James Cook. I think he's the better running back. He's the better player, and he's on the better team. Especially because think about this: do we know is Jaden Daniels starting today? Do we know that? Do we?
Yeah, expected.
He's expected to, but you never know. And so,
and unfortunately, like because I think that's a 4:00 Eastern game, like you won't know for sure. And I think Buffalo plays soon. Like, I think
James Cook also has a better matchup.
No, they play at 4:00 too. It's a later game,
so this is yeah. I think if you're looking for, what was I gonna say? If you're looking to decide between them, I would say if Jaden Daniels starts, I'd start Robinson. I'm starting Cook either way, but if you're more on the edge, I'm gonna go wait until you see who the quarterback is for the day.
I know again, he was outside the top 20 last week, but first game back from injury. I've got James Cook at RB8 this week. Seahawks are one of the worst run defenses in the NFL, and so I think he'll be efficient that way. But then full PPR really pushes me that way even further.
Yes.
He's the pass catching back, whereas Robinson probably won't catch a ton of passes unless Daniels plays. And that might be okay to protect Daniels more dump offs. But if it's Marcus Mariota, like I really don't rely on that. But I even if Daniels plays, I say it's James Cook. I view him as a top 10 back this week. And then you're telling me full PPR, his chance to catch passes. I'm all in on James Cook. So crazy for the Cook, I suppose. Michael, the aforementioned Michael, as Jamie was talking, this is who you're referring to at the Caleb Kyler decision a couple weeks ago, right, Jamie?
Yep. Yeah.
Asking about Marvin Harrison Jr., George Pickens, or Tony Pollard in full PPR.
Well, let's just eliminate Harrison. It's got to be between Pollard and Pickens.
I was actually going to eliminate Pollard because they're playing the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I was gonna. Yeah, I mean,
who are you eliminating, Topher?
I was gonna eliminate Pollard as well, but also I'm heartbroken with what Harrison has not been so far this year. Just like it hurts my soul. I was very invested in him, and he just has not. His last 4 games, he has not had more than 50 yards. He hasn't per game. And
that one smash week, I think it was week 3, caught the 2 touchdowns and everything looked like it was great.
Yep, week 2, 130 for 2 tutties, and then from there. Yep, and so yeah, I'm going Pickens here. I think to me, this is one of the easier questions we've gotten today. But Michael, that's also a good thing to be like, hey, this is not something I have to sit there and worry about. These guys are all saying Pickens, I believe. I'm hoping.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's Pickens for sure.
I mean, it's pretty close between Pollard and Pickens. I got Pollard RB 6 or 7, and Pickens at wide receiver 11. So
I feel like I have Pollard where you have James Cook. I've got him at 27.
Well, you just figure, I mean, they lost 3.5 targets with Hopkins leaving, so they're just not going to plug in like that 6th-round rookie to get those 3.5 targets.
Nick Westbrook-Akine has been getting all the touchdowns lately, though.
But no, I'm going to go Pickens too, because I mean, he does rank 7th in yards per route run and averages one of the highest points per route. And Deonte Banks, on the other side, allows the most fantasy points per route run to receivers. So it's clear, like it's going to be Pickens that's going to have the advantage in that matchup.
And with this current
and Banks also
situation,
allows over 70% catch rate. So
Pickens seems a lot more dangerous for opposing receivers now.
Yes.
But yeah, I mentioned earlier, it feels like now at this point, this is when you kind of like almost don't even think about it. You just play Pickens every week. As long as he's got Russell Wilson, it seems like it's operating well, working well. Just back to Zach's question. I guess he's a little concerned with Otton in that he'll get extra. There's going to be a lot of defensive focus on Otton with no other truly reliable weapons.
No, I think they move him around enough. They put him in the slot. They put him at the tight end position. So you got Shepard. I mean, Shepard's a veteran. He knows the routes. And then McMillan.
It's not like McMillan, Shepard, and Palmer. Like they're not going to be just left wide open. Like you still have to cover them. You don't have to approach it like you would a Godwin or Evans.
Yes.
I don't know. Well, and this goes to the next question of trusting Baker, because Baker is involved in this next question from Zach. Also, another Zach is here every week. So there's a Sterling Shepard involved in this too. So we got a quarterback question and a wide receiver question. But Baker Mayfield or Patrick Mahomes?
This question hurts my soul. Like,
the problem I'm having with Baker is how good is he going to be without Godwin and Evans? Because he's like, if either Godwin's or Evans is there, like Baker's a must start. But now that both of them are gone for this week, I've ranked Baker down like QB 21 right now. Is where I have him.
Yeah.
So I say it's Mahomes. Mahomes against the Raiders, he usually has good games against them.
Yeah. I would go for it.
I agree. It's got to be Mahomes, unfortunately, because Baker lost both his top weapons.
And Mahomes just gained DeAndre Hopkins, right?
Hopkins, and then it's with National Tight Ends Day. I mean, I could see Kelsey and Mahomes just blowing up.
Yeah, I'm going Mahomes.
You think Kelsey made Mahomes a friendship bracelet just to like extra incentive? You gotta give me lots of targets today.
I hope so. I hope we see a I'm surprised we've not seen a friendship bracelet between them publicly. Like you've got to have that on the team. You just do.
Now,
Okay.
as for the Shepherd and Odunze,
Oh,
Odunze is my sleeper of the week only because like he plays on
Washington.
he plays Washington, horrible, right? What's that guy's name? Benjamin St. Juice. He is playing on the right side 56 or 57% of the time. Odunze plays on that side 50% of the time.
Huh.
St. Juice is tied for the 12th most receptions allowed to wide receivers, and he's allowing a passer rating of like 111. So I love Odunze.
Well, and I wonder if he even gets St. Just because
On the right
the way
side.
he's playing, right side, but it also feels like St. Just has been on the team's best receiver. Like he's the guy who's in shadow coverage. He probably shouldn't be, but as bad as the stats look, he actually is their best corner. Which that's the problem in Washington. They don't really have a number one corner. So I wonder if this is a game where he flips to the other side to cover DJ Moore.
Well, and that's even better for him.
Exactly. That's almost better for Odunze that way because then you're getting
Emmanuel Forbes, like that dude, he's struggling with injuries this year. He missed several games, but he also has a 77.8% catch rate. So he's going to catch the ball.
First round pick. What a great investment there, Washington.
Yeah. And you got to remember, Odunze had 11 targets in a similar matchup versus the Panthers secondary a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm going. I'm going to Odunze on this. He is not producing as much, but he's getting target share. He is, this is going to be a high octane game, and I trust him much more than I trust Sterling Shepard.
Yeah, I'm actually sitting like a Michael Pittman for Odunze, a couple other people I can't remember.
Dang.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Pittman hasn't been great of late. But that's a little extreme to me because I still have Odunze outside the top 40. But I'll admit that he's pretty high. Like he's in the high 40s. Higher ranked than Sterling Shepard. The Bears this week, if I look at the goal line guide, they have the second highest passing goal line grade of the week. The Bills are the only team higher. Their pass is only +9 because their rushing grade is pretty high too. So maybe that still means rushing touchdowns for your boy Roshan. But I like that environment, I think, to target Odunze. So we're all in agreement there. All right, Roger again. Full PPR, am I crazy to consider Dobbins in the flex over Devontae Adams? Just wondering with the full week of practice if Rodgers is enough. Dobbins, RB11 this week. Adams at wide receiver 11. Like I said, I have Adams at wide receiver 32. So I'm not going to say you're crazy, Roger. Maybe I'll say Aaron Rodgers is crazy. Sorry, that was a slip there. I almost think you're crazy to consider benching Dobbins right now. I think without Gus Edwards, he's going to get all the volume. They're playing the Saints defense. That's been an awful defense. And their offense really can't sustain much. I view Dobbins as a must start this week. Jamie, I think you have him pretty high too. Maybe not quite as high as I do. I mean, he's like, I think RB10 or something.
Yeah, I got him a little lower, 15.
Okay, I actually have him at 13. So you actually have him higher than us, Roger. And trust that. Your RB11 should always be started. And again, I don't buy Devontae Adams at wide receiver 11. I mean, I don't even have Garrett Wilson that high, and that would make more sense to me. So no, I think it's JK easily, even in full PPR.
Same here.
Yeah, I have him projected about 2 points more than Adams. So yeah, I like it.
The Chargers' rushing goal line grade differential is +79.5. That's actually the differential is higher than the actual run average of 76.5. So high touchdown upside for J.K. Dobbins this week.
Yeah.
That's also super high rushing goal line grade. Not that matters to Rodgers. He might throw anyway, but it's also in theory a good week for Hall to be scoring touchdowns and not from the passing game.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Waddle instead of Hill in GPP. What is ownership? I don't actually play DFS, so I don't know where to even find ownership.
I'm not a DFS guy.
What you really should do, Justin, is head over to the Going for Two Discord and ask it in there, because that's you're going to get more good actual people playing DFS answers. I think there's even DFS specific sections for that. Jamie, do you play DFS at all?
Not this year. I did in the past. But if you do watch Friday's Going for Two show, they have a whole show dedicated to DFS.
Actually, Gerson was all in on Tyreek Hill this week, if I remember.
Yeah, Gerson does this for a living. Like, he puts lots of money down.
Now, Hill is questionable. And like
Hill said he's playing.
Hill's going to play.
Knowing the players, I'd imagine Hill's ownership is higher. So, like, from a game theory perspective, going with the healthier guy who's probably lower owned and Waddle and going to be cheaper probably does make sense. I mean, if you're asking for just one lineup, then it probably does make sense to go Waddle. If you're going to do multiple lineups, I'd say try and get a bit of both. Some lineups with Waddle, some lineups with Hill. That's it's been a few. Unfortunately, Doug Ford is awful, and Ontario laws involved for sports gambling and daily fantasy sports really suck. So we don't actually have DFS in Ontario.
Oh, dang.
We have a DraftKings sportsbook, but they don't offer DFS.
Huh.
And Underdog, we're not available in Canada. That isn't even a Doug Ford thing. Like, Underdog has just never been available in Canada.
Well, they need to step up their game.
I know. It's awful. Our provincial government sucks. Which, I mean, this is no shock. We knew he was awful before he took power. And
I love when that happens. Right?
I mean, there's a bunch of Toronto Maple Leafs fans. I can't, like, of course we're freaking idiots enough to vote him in. John mentioning, thanks, guys. Thank you, Jamie, for pointing John in our direction, too. I don't know how to transition that, but drop the mics here. Hey, Mike Hicks, co-host of the Fantasy Cheat Sheet, along with my boy Jamie. Tuesday nights on the Going for Two Live Network. And just, I guess, a good time to promo the fact that there's, like, every night of the week, great shows and great content on the Going for Two Live YouTube page. So come check us out. Lots of great live stuff. Want to hear Jamie's rants about the Browns and why it's definitely okay to cheer on injuries to sexual predators, which I totally endorse, by the way. Watch the Fantasy Cheat Sheet. So Tuesday at 10:30.
I love that. I'm all here for it.
Rob Roach, rounding out the quarterback questions. We've talked a lot about the Jets lately. We got two Packers fans clearly are just getting the Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams questions. Appreciate it, I suppose. Yeah. But Aaron Rodgers versus the Patriots or Jared Goff versus the Titans?
Yeah, this one's tough because Tennessee has been pretty solid in the secondary.
But their run defense is also really good. So I also don't think it's a game where the Lions can just truly run it out. Maybe they can because the Titans offense is so bad. I don't know. Like I've got Goff at QB9 this week.
I got him at 12. I would have had him at 9 if it wasn't for the matchup, but yeah, this is pretty easy for Goff.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm going to tell you, though, this is my buddy Rob. He is 7-0 in our triple keeper league right now. And this is just another question for his dominant team right here. So, thanks for tuning in, Rob.
And it's not like either of those quarterbacks have smashed. So the fact that he's 7-0 with that quarterback duo tells me the rest of his team must be so strong that it almost doesn't matter which quarterback.
He also has Sam Darnold. It's a super flex league, and he started Sam Darnold already.
I understand. Yeah.
Yep.
That makes sense.
But he said,
and that's the quarterback that's been smashing this year. So keep playing Darnold for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And he had Chris Godwin and Saquon Barkley.
Okay, well.
So
sorry about Godwin.
So that's all you need. Yeah. So I'm going Goff as well. I was just making sure we didn't play this week. So then if so, I was going to tell the guys in our private chat to say they're
Of course it's Rodgers. Look at the jersey. I'm always going to
Exactly.
So I love this next question here. This one is awesome.
Because they play the same game. So we will get to know if Daniels is playing or not.
Mm-hmm. Even if he does play, though, I love Caleb Williams this week. Like, I'm not a Caleb Williams truther. Like, you know me, in Dynasty, I was taking Daniels over Williams.
Yeah.
I just
big brain on
love
Jamie.
The matchup. Like, Chicago, their secondary, I believe Brisker is out still, but their secondary is still elite. I would just go Williams, man. I have, like I said, I have him at QB7. Daniels, if he plays, I have him more at like QB11. Just because of the
Actually,
rushing upside.
I have Daniels at QB 12. I did have him at 11. I think I actually got raised Patrick Mahomes ahead. But yeah, we talked about already. Both of us have Caleb at QB7, so I do agree with Jamie. As much as I'm pro Daniels over Caleb from a season-long perspective, but that doesn't mean on any given week I wouldn't flip the matchup if that's good defenses and those things. And
with that rib injury, man, I don't know how much he's gonna rely on the run.
And we've got a couple questions from now. We've got another Jaden Daniels question that I've got in one of my leagues, and it's the you're getting to that pivot point, but I feel like we rank Caleb high enough that I think it's the safest play to just go with Caleb. What do you think, Topher?
I think I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Caleb Williams here. It hurts me to say that as a Packers fan, but I think the defense differential is one thing that we've talked about. And then Hurts coming in banged up, we don't know what Hurts looks like banged up. He could look just like not Hurts, Daniels.
Similar skill sets.
yeah, but
lots of rushing touchdowns.
Being hurt. Daniels, we don't know what that looks like. We don't know if he is somebody in the NFL that comes back and is like, I'm questionable, smashable, like I'm all good, I'm going to run this. Or questionable means I'm not going to run as much. I'm going to be safe. I'm going to not throw the deep ball as much. Like, I think you go with a healthy Caleb Williams against easier defense.
Just to really throw a wrench in it, though, Dan Quinn did say earlier this week they weren't going to play Daniels unless he's 100%. So if they do make him active, you get the sense that he really is fine. Which the way it's so questionable, though, makes me think he's not going to play, and then this saves us from the entire decision. So we'll just have to find out later. But it was tough to rank Daniels even as low as QB 12. I don't know if I'd go any lower than that. Zach with another question: PPR, Austin Eckler, Christian Watson, or Trey Palmer?
How do you know it's Trey Palmer, not Josh Palmer? How do we know it's not Blake Watson or Justin Watson over Christian Watson?
Okay, the Watson one, that's a little egregious.
Great point about Blake Watson, since he's so talented. He's not been active for a single game this year. Sure, as much as it pains my giant heart here. I guess. Okay, you know what? Let's get to this Daniels question. Zach, can you just kind of clarify which Palmer? Because that is a good point. See, I think I've got Christian Watson ranked ahead of both Josh Palmer and Trey Palmer, though, so I don't know that it matters.
Well, I got Eckler.
We'll give Zach a second to just clarify that one, because maybe this is good to bring this up. So, at what point is the Jaden Daniels injury going to be affecting it? Yeah, Christian and Trey. Okay.
Trey Palmer. Yeah.
Just went with my gut there.
Of
course, Jamie thought, it could be the Canadian. So let's give the Canadians a look. But, my thought on this, Gavin, thanks for your question, Gavin Sam. Daniels or Russ versus Daniels. He says versus Washington, versus Chicago, or Russ versus the Giants. Daniels maybe not 100%. Again, that thought that Quinn put out there, they're going to play it extremely safe with their franchise quarterback. So if Daniels is playing, I trust that he's probably close to 100%, if not 100%. Supposedly there's no rib fractures, it's just a bruise. So then I was hearing from someone who's a doctor on one of the podcasts talk about bruised ribs aren't going to be aggravated by just normal movement. Him throwing isn't going to make it worse, kind of thing. So the risk of re-injury, except of just taking a different injury from a different hit, is necessarily there. Because that was part of my thought process with this: is there a chance that Daniels plays the game but then gets pulled out? And it seems like that's not really. It could happen. But then that could also happen to Russ, right? Russ could suffer an ACL injury and you miss that game too. So it seems like if Daniels is going to play, you have to consider him 100%. And so the way I'm seeing it, if he's active, I'm just going to stick with him in the lineup and not go to Monday night with Russ. That's how I'm approaching my lineup, based on, again, what Dan Quinn said earlier in the week. And I trust with something like that they're really going to take it cautious with their franchise.
We've seen Russell Wilson be up and down over the past few seasons. He can have a good game. It wasn't an elite game last week, but it was a good game against some stellar secondary. And then we've seen him throw in the towel against teams that you're like, hey, you should be a top 10 fantasy QB this week, and you're 27th. So I'm gonna go Jaden Daniels. If he plays, he's one of those people, like, if he plays in this situation, you play him. If you don't have a viable, like earlier we were talking about Daniels or Williams, and I think that's a much closer matchup than Daniels versus Russ, because if they were both 100%, 99.9% of the time, you should be going with Daniels. And I think that's what you got to go with. You play your superstars.
Yeah, Daniels has the upside to be in that top 12. Russ, I think he might hit top 15 this week just because of the matchup. But other than that, he only has like one weapon to throw to.
He was QB3 last week with that same weapon against, and you said, because like I'm looking at the Jets, like they seem like they're actually a tough matchup in terms of fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks. So he proved it then. Like, I've got them back to back in my rankings, but again, Daniels being that one spot higher, that's how I'm approaching it in my league. So like I'm putting my money where my mouth is, Gavin, because again, I've got the same dilemma. Daniels plays. I'm trusting Quinn in that he's going to be 100%, and we're going with Daniels. But part of me thinks he doesn't play today. Like, I really think that because he's been questionable, because it seems like he's not 100%, it's just gonna be a Mariota start, and then you don't even have to worry. Just make sure you're replacing Russ when that happens, and be ready to make that change in your lineups. But I've got Daniels in the lineup right now, and I'm just kind of waiting and seeing. Zach's been waiting long enough for this question. So yeah, Austin Eckler, Christian Watson, or Trey Palmer. Like I mentioned earlier, I've got Watson ahead of Trey Palmer, so I would lean that way. Falcons secondary may not be great, but it seems a lot better than the Jags. So I trust Watson to maybe hit a more spike week. Not that he's really had any of those this year, but like maybe catch a touchdown and get to 10 points, I suppose.
Yeah, I think Watson has the highest upside here, obviously. Big play potential. Eckler, I mean, if you just want like 5-6 points and you're good with that in your lineup, go Eckler. But if you're looking for that boom, like that could put up 12 to 15, I would definitely go Watson.
I mean, Palmer's been a lack of ceiling. Like, I know, and again, most of this is with Godwin and Evans. He has technically 2 games as a top 80 wide receiver this year. He was wide receiver 34 in week 4 when he caught a touchdown. He had 26 yards, so he was literally only going to do that with the touchdown, and was wide receiver 80 last week in the game where Evans left.
He's got 5 targets, 5 receptions, 61 yards, and a tutty. I'm not starting Palmer until he can prove something, especially if I have better viable assets for me. I'm gonna say with this, I think Austin Eckler, if you want a floor play, if you want somebody that's gonna, like Jamie was saying, get you in there, give you a few points for sure, because Watson comes out some weeks and is phenomenal, and some weeks he lays a big old goose egg. I don't think he does that this week against the Jaguars secondary, but you never know because they have so many weapons there in Green Bay. It's, I am somebody that in my main dynasty league, I eventually got all of the Packers wide receivers on my team. I've got Love, and I got all 4 Packers wide receivers. And I just said, hey, I'm going to stick with the guys, that are
quadruple stack in my lineup every week.
No. No. But I am, I'm very aware of who's getting what. I will tell you, Christian Watson, we're talking about Trey Palmer here only having 5 receptions on the season. Christian Watson only has 9. So he did miss a game, but he is 9 receptions, 157 for 2 tutties. That is the quote unquote worst out of all the wide receivers. So
top
he
four.
will give you boom. He will also give you a lot more bust. So I always sit there and talk about, hey, what can your team afford? Can it afford a big boomer bust? Can it afford to, or does it need that floor play to get through because it's a tight matchup?
I think the one thing I might push back on is that Eckler is a safe floor player, because last week was his worst game of the year. Like, I don't think that's a coincidence that it came with Marcus Mariota. And this to me is even more so than the previous question, the Brian Robinson versus James Cook. I'm high enough on James Cook that like I'm going Cook no matter over Robinson, even if Daniels plays. I think this one really does come down to, does Jaden Daniels play? And unfortunately, the other two games are happening before. So you kind of have to go with your gut. If you think Daniels plays, I could see Eckler having a big receiving game. Again,
Yes.
maybe Daniels' effort to protect himself. He had 3 receiving yards last week with Mariota playing most. Like, that's not a guy that's going to dump down. Like, that's a guy that's going to really take off and run a lot in those situations. So I would argue Eckler really doesn't have a floor if Mariota plays. Then, in which case, it leads me to say just go for the boom guy, because there is no boom versus safety. Like we talk about Trey Palmer, there's no safety there. We have no idea what it's going to look like this week. I don't really think there's much of a floor with Eckler if Mariota is the quarterback. So I tend to lean Watson, just go against that Jags defense. But,
I mean, this is, I'm going to say this is.
If you think Jaden Daniels is going to play, then it makes sense to play Eckler. That's what I'll leave it at. So you got to have to guess for yourself, Zach. Again, like, you know what Dan Quinn said, right? Like, we're not playing him until he's 100%. The fact that he's still questionable and like super limited in practice tells me he's probably not 100%, which leads me to think Daniels isn't going to play this week. So that's why my thought is Eckler, no floor. Give me Watson with the potential boom against the Jags.
I think I'm still going to stick with my you go with what you need. Do you need a ceiling or a floor? I do see that you commented Christian Watson or Trey Palmer. I'm going Watson. Especially because of the matchup. And this is a matchup where Christian Watson can come away with 2 receptions for 74 yards and a touchdown. Like, that's what I think Watson's stat line.
The Titans stat line.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think that was almost exactly a stat line. Like, it was
probably.
I think it was like, I think he caught 2 35-yard passes to get to 70 yards, and those was only 2 catches the whole game, but 1 was for a touchdown.
I'm looking it up right now.
This is strange. We got some Jamie-ception going on.
60. He had 67 against Tennessee and 68 against Arizona. So close.
Consistent. He's not consistent. Hey, I know that guy. Hi, Jamie Perog. Najee Harris or Cortland Sutton?
Yeah, I think it's easily Najee. I just love Sutton's matchup versus the Panthers.
I mean, what was their game last week where he got 0 catches? Was that not like a? I don't think it was a horrible match.
I mean, he's not facing Lattimore this week, so
it was. Oh yeah, it was Lattimore. You're right. Okay,
yeah, they are playing Carolina.
But he's also not named Mike Evans, so
yeah.
But you know what that is? That might be Sean Payton knowing how good Lattimore is, and he told Bo Nix never target Sutton, right? Like,
yeah,
that could just be as simple as that. Like, we know how good he is. We've seen him shut down Mike Evans every freaking game.
This week he's going against Mike Jackson, who is the 6th most. He allows the 6th most fantasy points allowed per route run. Giving up an average of 13.6 yards per catch and 4 touchdowns this year.
Maybe they shouldn't have traded that random corner away for Deontay Johnson. Actually, I think he's been awful with Pittsburgh. I think that's very clear the Panthers won that trade. I don't know. Like you said, Jamie, like you seem to prefer Najee. That seems to be where you're leaning, just because of the volume, how this offense operates. I would say Russ not stealing all the goal line touches, but suddenly he got a rushing touchdown inside the 5. So like Najee still has no touchdown upside because the quarterbacks keep vulturing him. But that was like, okay, 1 yard QB sneak, right? Like, that's a little different than Fields running it from 5 yards out. Like, Russ isn't necessarily going to do that. So inside the 5, it still feels like it's not a show if they get there. Goal line guide. It favors the run, but it's still like their run score is technically below average. So Denver actually has a really good passing goal line grade, but their rushing goal line grade is the second highest of the week. So
we got Courtney in the chat.
Courtney Harden. I was going to say Courtney Burroughs.
Jamie Perog's question.
Courtney Harden is the real deal. Love this dude. He's amazing. Shout out to Courtney and his show, The Real Deal. Definitely people should check that out. Kate Otten or Demario Douglas. Already have Tucker Kraft in the tight end slot. And thanks, Jamie, because I noticed he put this in our Going for Two Twitter chat. And
that was very
thanks for directing him over here so we could really discuss it. Man, National Tight End Week, right? It's time to start 2 tight ends.
I'm starting 3 tight ends in one of my leagues.
I mean, there's a league that I have where I've done that pretty regularly, but it's also tight end premium with a ton of flex spots. So it's the type of league that favors that. Like, which 3 are you going with?
I got to pull it up, but let's answer this question while I look for it.
Yeah. Does Douglas get the Sauce Gardner treatment? Because he seems like he's the top receiver in the Patriots.
I mean, even if he doesn't, Reed is amazing too. He's been even better than Sauce.
Yeah. This is kind of gross.
I mean, I'm 100% going Kate Otten.
Yep.
Easily. Just the thought of the targets.
Targets, the better matchup.
Sorry, Topher. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Demario Douglas has had a couple. Before last week, he had 2 games with 9 targets, 6 receptions, and 59 yards in one, and then 92 yards and a tutty in the other. But besides, it's such a weird thing. But I don't trust anything besides Drake May's connection to Hunter Henry in that offense right now. That's the only thing that I trust in that Patriots offense. And then against the Jets, a division rival as well, I think Kate Otten is the guy to play here. I think it's a pretty slam dunk in my opinion.
I'm just checking the ECR. Devontae Adams is still wide receiver 13 in ECR. Sorry, I know that has nothing to do with this question, but come on, people, how are you ranking him so highly?
ECR, remind me, what does that mean?
Expert consensus rankings.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Everyone in the Fantasy Pros,
yes,
expert or ranking accuracy contest. That's what it's called. So that takes all 200 plus people. But like wide receiver, I don't get it.
Yep.
Sorry, but yeah, I'm just without the receivers. I think Otten getting enough targets. The one thing we'll say with Douglas, I mean, he's had 2 games with Drake May, and one of them it seemed like he was super sick and didn't play the full snaps. So like last week, it seems like the one week you can like look at what is the true Douglas is that game 2 weeks ago where he got 9 targets. Like that seems like that's the most accurate to what we're going to see the rest of the season. But we also don't know what Kate Otten is going to do without these receivers. So he might have like even more of a spike than what Douglas has. So
yes.
Yeah. National Tight End Day. This is the week to go with 2 tight ends, Courtney.
Yeah, I found that league. I'm actually starting 4 tight ends because it is a start 2 tight end league.
Oh yeah. So yeah.
Dang.
Who are the 4?
So crap. Hold on, let me go back to it. It is I'm starting Trey McBride.
Of course.
Crap, hold on.
Especially in that format. You'd never even consider benching him.
Yeah, okay. So Trey McBride and Tucker Kraft are my 2 starting tight ends. I'm starting Jake Ferguson and Kincaid in the flex. My only other options would be like Singletary, Slayton, and Tolbert because Higgins is out. So yeah.
No. Is there any tight end premium to this at all?
Yeah. It's 1 full point.
Yeah, I'm going 4 tight ends.
Yeah.
That's the move, Jamie. And because it's 2, there's so much scarcity in that league because it's 2 tight end. There's probably other teams that are not like their second tight end is not optimal because you're stealing them all. So great job. That way of roster construction.
Well, I love to stash tight ends, and like all those tight ends were stashes pretty much. I mean, besides some dude offered me a trade. He was like sending me Kamara for Trey McBride, my first and my second. And I just laughed and blocked him. Oh, man. Next question. Let's see.
Yeah, Zach's got another question. First off, he's saying he's going Watson only because Topher said it, and not.
I think we all said Watson.
Yeah,
but it's because I said it.
Yeah, the only reason he's going.
Hey, Zach, I'm at this point, I'm really expecting a tramp stamp of "In Topher I Trust." If I win you a fantasy football season this year, I want a tramp stamp. I want it in a trashy font too. Like I
And
want
you
it,
obviously
like,
want the picture for proof, right?
yeah, I will actually fly out to wherever you are
And watch him get the tattoo.
and I will be by your side, cheering you on as you get that tramp stamp.
Oh
Yeah.
man,
We're
garnering just new relationships here on.
you know what? I'm here for the people. I'm here to support you. I'm here to cheer you on. I'm here to give you decisions that you're going to regret, not just for fantasy, but for the rest of your life. So
I love you, Topher. The dedication you have for the listeners is amazing. I admire that so much.
As a teacher, I tell my students my job is to build you up a little bit and tear you down a lot. So
super. Yeah. Can't give them all the answers after all. Yeah. Appreciate the love. Appreciate the love from Courtney as well. Appreciate joining us on this live stream too. Courtney's a great guy. Like I said, watch the real deal. It is truly the real deal. So Zach, with another question: Deep league, PPR, Jatavian Sanders or Jonnu Smith?
Ooh.
Okay, so Jonnu Smith was my waiver wire pickup. I was on this Big Game IDP Hunter podcast that released on Thursday. I talked about him. He's only 9% owned. He should be owning more because he had 7 targets last week. He had 22 fantasy points. He was a tight end 2 on the week, right? The week before the bye week, he had 8 targets, and now 2 is returning.
Yeah.
I believe he's only playing like 50% of the snaps, but he's seeing the targets when he plays. So I do like Jonnu Smith over the rookie, especially with Bryce Young.
Well, that's the thing. It's the conversion, right? One guy gets his starting quarterback back. The other guy also gets his starting quarterback back, but it's not a good thing. Like it's, it's man. And I mean, I think last week Jonnu outscored Jatavian, even though Jatavian had Andy Dalton and Jonnu had Tyler Huntley, right? So with better quarterbacks, I think it's easy.
Yeah. I would say you start Jonnu, but I think you're very smart for having Jatavian because I liked him coming out of college. And he wasn't like anything anybody was like running to get. But
they weren't viewing him like Bowers. Like it was very
correct.
Clear like Bowers was the guy and everyone else was in that another tier.
Exactly.
Even like Jamie, you and I were like, he's tight end 4 before the draft because we were loving the Ben Sinnott relative athletic score and Theo Johnson.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Ben Sinnott, Theo Johnson, but I think Jatavian Sanders has the best opportunity right now. And I think by the end of the season, you're going to be very happy to have him. I'm starting Jonnu this week, but
someone dropped Sanders in one of my dynasty leagues. I picked him up the very next day. I think I dropped like Gainwell or something for him.
And we have had, I think, 5 different Zachs on the show, or 4 different Zachs. And we get Zachary now, so it's not always felt the same way. We had Z-A-C, Z-A-C-H, Z-A-C-H-A-R-Y.
Z?
Yeah.
What?
Jamie knows we're Canadian. We say Z, not Z.
Hold on. Jamie, are you Canadian as well?
I identify.
Okay, I was going to be like...
He identifies as Canadian, but he's not Canadian. And as Canada, we're so accepting that I totally, I will allow it.
I'm right below him in Cleveland, so we're close enough.
You're close to a Great Lake. Anyone who's on a Great Lake, I consider them Canadian.
I tell people that are from Minnesota that they're Canadian. So I was wondering if you were from Minnesota because we just say we don't want you to Minnesota.
As Packers fans, I agree with that.
Yeah, exactly. I worked at a church. I worked at a church camp one summer, and there was a camp counselor from Minnesota, and I called her Canada. And all my kids started calling her Canada. And for the weekly talent show, on their own, they learned the words to "Oh Canada" and sang "Oh Canada" to her at the talent show.
Did they do it like half English, half French?
Oh no, they sang it all English. They were middle schoolers.
That's okay. I accept. That's still good.
We don't know if McConkey's active yet because it's a 4:00 game. But
so is the Bears game, right?
So so is the Bears. I think I'm going to go Keenan Allen here. Just
in secondary,
man. Even though I do love Odunze as a sleeper, I mean Keenan Allen has a lot of upside in that offense, especially versus Washington.
He draws targets. That's all Keenan Allen's done his whole career is draw targets. And
Plus the Chargers actually brought up Jalen Reagor from the practice squad. So
I have Keenan Allen at wide receiver 39.
Jalen Reagor.
And McConkey at 42. So I do have Keenan Allen higher. So
I like Allen in this. It is a tough decision, about 50-50 split, but I would lean Allen.
And again,
I'm leaning Allen, especially just because of health as well. Like I don't. Yeah.
McConkey could play, but still not be 100%. So
correct.
And I already mentioned the Chargers rushing goal line guide. It's the highest differential I think I've ever seen. It's 79.5 points higher. So like their passing goal line grade is atrocious this week. It's like 44. I think the Panthers are the only ones lower because it's the Panthers. And they're playing Denver. Like that's like a double trouble for them. But other than that, like it's not a lot of high touchdown upside, I think, for the Chargers pass catchers. Tons for Dobbins, and that makes sense with Cleanest.
Yeah.
In Canada, we pronounce that Cleanest.
Is there any way?
How? Hold on. As somebody that has studied multiple languages,
I was kidding. I messed up. I'm just an idiot.
You said in Canada we say Cleanest, and
that was a joke because I pronounced it wrong. I'm just
okay. Because I'm like.
That was a joke too far. I'm sorry.
My French pronunciation is not the best, but what?
Cleanest.
Yeah,
sorry. Thank you, Cleanest. That was not the cleanest way to say your name, so I apologize entirely. That is my fault. But yeah, Devon Achane or J.K. Dobbins. I mean,
I'm stealing this from Kyle because of he keeps touting his the thingamabob, talking about the 79% highest that he's ever seen. J.K. Dobbins. I'm running with J.K. Dobbins here just because he's got the red zone opportunities there. Achane has not been Achane, and I don't think that Tua makes Achane what he is. I think that there's something more going on here with Achane.
And just from a touchdown perspective, the Saints have allowed 86% touchdown rate on carries inside the 5. So if they get there, they're almost assuredly giving up a touchdown. It's honestly, I think, actually, the Chargers are actually the worst team. The only team worse than that, but which the Saints get to play. The Cardinals have only allowed 33% on goal line touchdown carries. So it's anything inside the 5. So much higher touchdown chance for Dobbins than Achane. So, yep. I think Dobbins, again, borderline top 12 running back for me. I know in ECR, Achane's ranked a little higher. I've got him right around RB20.
Yeah, it's close. I mean, just going by points per game, Dobbins has been getting like almost 2 points higher per game, I believe, or 1.5 at least. But he's getting the volume. He's getting like 75% of the snaps. Achane's only getting like 50, 55%. So yeah, go Dobbins.
All right.
Kyle,
I wasn't sure if I'd get pushback from you guys on that one. So yeah, we're all saying Dobbins. That's a very clean way to do it. That was the cleanest part of that whole segment.
I believe, Kyle, you're one of the highest rankers on Fantasy Pros for running backs, so I would trust Kyle.
Well, I think I've gone down a little. I think I'm now in like the top 30. I was top 5 at one point.
Yeah.
I'm only in the top 30. Oh no!
No, but
out of like 190.
Yeah, but I think my overall ranking is like definitely in the hundreds. Like I haven't been good at a lot of positions, so running back's been good. I did have I think week 1 and week 3 I had top 3 weeks, both of those, and that's what really pushed that top 5 up. The last couple weeks haven't been as solid, but yeah. Thank you, Jamie, for the credit. I should just accept compliments instead of struggle to do that. And okay, so this is actually something I was struggling a little bit with Zach, not involving Knicks, but Geno Smith versus Baker. And again, with the lack of Evans Godwin, makes me scared enough. Even though Metcalf's out, I still trust that Seattle passing offense more. So I am going Geno Smith over Baker, and I do have Geno ranked higher than Bo Nix. So that would be my way about it. And if Geno has a bad week, Zach, you can blame me, but you'll also join me in misery. Because again, I'm trusting Geno. Every league I've got Geno in, he's in my starting lineup. So if he has a bad week, there's several leagues I'm going to be very upset. So just know that we're together on that if you do, in fact, listen to me. But you're just going to do whatever Topher says. So may as well have Jamie go first, and that way we get all the suspense for the end. If you don't mind, Topher.
I mean, yeah. So, you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so
Exactly.
Gino, he's missing. I do have Gino over Baker, but Gino is missing DK Metcalf this week, right?
Yep.
Tyler Lockett is going up against one of the best cornerbacks, Christian Benford. So if you believe in JSN is going to have a huge game, then yeah, go Gino. But I don't. I love Knicks this week. Awesome matchup. That's secondary. Plus, Knicks has that rushing upside. He can get you like 50, 60, even 70 yards on the ground.
The high rushing goal line grade means he's got a good chance at a rushing touchdown. Probably better chance to score a rushing touchdown than a passing touchdown.
Oh, so he does need to start 2, I see. Okay, so Knicks and Gino. That's easy.
Oh, start 2, right. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I think I agree. I think I'm benching Baker in spite of all his success. Sorry, Zach. So, Topher, what is the actual answer that Zach's going to follow?
I'm going to say for sure you start Knicks. I think Knicks is a must start, especially against Carolina. I think that he is a must start. You know what? I don't have Geno Smith on any of my teams, and I have not been tracking him, but I'm looking right now. Here's the deal.
One of the highest floors of any fantasy player. Like he is now, no DK, does that change that? But he has been super consistent.
He's been very consistent, especially in the category that we want, which is yardage, because he's had 1 week with 2 passing touchdowns. Otherwise, it's always been 1, which is okay. Totally fine. That's how life goes. He does have a rushing touchdown from week 1 as well. But his passing yard floor is so amazing. Because of that, I'm going to go Geno as well. I think right now, with any quarterback, even if like who do I want to say? Like even if Jordan Love lost Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs, you'd be hesitant to start him. Obviously, they're not on the same level as Evans. They're one of the best wide receiver duos in the league. But like if Sam Darnold lost Jefferson and Addison, I'm trying to think of other lethal combos. If Aaron Rodgers lost Wilson and Adams, like if you have that, you're going to be hesitant to start them no matter what. And I think you need to I think everyone needs to take a week to sit back and watch what Baker does, because he could be a top, 15 quarterback this week. He could also be a total dud just because of the way that he's played the game this year has funneled in 2 players plus Cade Otton and the running backs. And so now, the passing game is going to be so different. It just has to.
Sorry, Topher.
No. That's all I was going to say.
The one spot I'm starting Baker for sure is it's a 2 QB league, and Trevor Lawrence is basically the third option. And as we saw with last week, if the Packers can get pressure on the opposing quarterback, it could be a nightmare. So yeah. That's a situation where, okay, I'm willing to trust what Baker's done even without his receivers. The way Geno's played, though, again, so consistent. Maybe that he is hurt a little bit by DK, but I think it's less hurt by just missing DK as opposed to Baker missing both his receivers. So I guess we're all in agreement on Geno and Bo Nix.
Yeah.
And
as we all thought we would be in agreement on at the beginning of the season.
Jerry Bagshaw saying hi all. And actually we'll leave Jerry and everyone else in the chat with just the inactive report for today. T. Higgins is out. So if you've got T. Higgins in your lineup, you're going to have to find a replacement because T. Higgins is inactive. Looking through, that seems like that was the biggest name. I'm just looking through one last time. I thought I saw another name that was worth. Oh, Travis Etienne is also still out. So it's going to be Bigsby. And man, all those leagues where I offered Dearness Johnson for a 4th. Don't you feel bad you didn't accept it now, Jamie? I'm just kidding. Dearness Johnson. I wonder if someone accepted. I'll have to go check Sleeper. But yeah, Etienne's out again. So, fire up your tank, Bigsby.
Yeah, and Zach, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Alan Lazard is out.
Yep.
Dallas Goedert out again. Will Levis is out. Tajee Spears out again. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, again, we did Mike Evans, Jerome Ford, those guys we've known.
Okay, so I do have a question for you before we go off. Which Bills receiver do you start? Khalil Shakir or Keon Coleman? Half point PPR.
They both got 7 targets last week, I think.
Yeah.
So it's really tough. But I think what we saw early season is Josh Allen relied so much on Shakir.
Yep.
And then he got hurt. And then he had that one. And then he came back, had that one bad week coming back. But then it seemed like that offense really struggled when Shakir wasn't there. So now that it looks like he's back to healthy, I would trust him to consistently get these targets every week.
Okay.
Coleman has maybe just as much, if not more, upside than Shakir. His role, catching deeper passes. Because I think they both had 7 targets, but I think yardage wise, it was 50 yards extra for Coleman. So he's got more upside. It's truly totally safety boom bust. But maybe the boom comes with Cooper and not with Coleman. Whereas I think Shakir's role is more. I've got Shakir ranked higher this week, so that's where I would go.
Yeah. So if I'm in a matchup where I'm playing the top what was I going to say? The top team in the league right now, you might lean Coleman because he's got that higher boom bust. Because
if it's the top team in the league, though, with Chris Godwin, right? Also look at who they actually have on the team too.
Oh no! They're stacked. They're receiver.
Yeah, I can then see the point of maybe wanting to chase the ceiling with Coleman. But.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They're it's nasty and unfair what their team is. So.
Actually, Jamie, do you want to chime in on that? Shakir versus Coleman?
Yeah, go Shakir, safer. I'm not a Coleman fan.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I love Coleman, but I want to. I don't want to play biased. I want to play smart. I don't want to play biased. So.
So a contribution from FU, Footy University. They go by FU on the Fun University, right? Looking good, but Sterling Shepard, Jake Ferguson, Raheem Mostert, or Josh Downs in the flex could also pick up Ricky Pearsall from waivers.
Yeah, first off, I would drop Downs for Pearsall just because
I drop Shepard for Pearsall.
I
drop either receiver for Pearsall. And I think I'd just go and start Pearsall. Part of me was reading it and oh man, National Tight End Day. Play the second tight end in the flex of Jake Ferguson. I guess my other question is, I think I've got Ferguson at tight end 5 this week. So who are you starting over him in the tight end slot? Because that might actually be where I bench and play Ferguson for sure. But yeah, I think I would flex Ricky Pearsall. Pick him up and flex him.
Yeah, drop down.
Yeah, we don't know if Debo is playing. Unfortunately for the University,
it's leaning that he is. It's leaning that he is.
It does seem like it's a true game time decision. So with Kittle and Debo, we don't know. I think if both play though, Pearsall's still probably starting for them in this offense.
Yeah, because especially because Jawan Jennings is out.
So I think Pearsall's a fine, and with those guys playing, that's less attention on Pearsall too. Suddenly he doesn't have to face top coverages. So I almost think it might even be better for him if Debo plays. So I think either way, Pearsall would be the pick for me. Zach Ertz over Ferguson right now, I would definitely play Jake Ferguson. To me, that's not even close. Ferguson is earning more targets than Ertz. Ertz might not have his starting quarterback this week, and it might be Mariota. And that I really don't like Ertz. So I definitely play Ferguson, and I would say Ferguson Pearsall is how I would go with those two. Do you guys agree with that? I mean, Topher clearly does, emphatically.
I'm dropping Josh Downs because he's only been seeing 1 to 3 targets with Richardson. So drop him for Pearsall. Start Ferguson in your tight end, and I would go Pearsall over Shepard.
I was thinking Mostert. Mostert might be with Tua back. Maybe the offense operates enough. But I also talked about with the goal line guide earlier. It doesn't look like it's a strong touchdown week for the Dolphins, at least rushing touchdown wise. So you might not have the typical ceiling of Mostert with his 1.5 touchdown per game rate that he was on last year. But yeah, Ferguson and Pearsall would be, I think, the 2 places I would go. 15 minutes before game lock. So I think we're done here. Great show again, guys.
Absolutely.
Great, glorious return of Topher that Jamie and I appreciate, but especially Zach. Thanking us, but especially really thank you, Topher.
I love it.
So goingfor2.com. Check out the website. There's also Discord in there, and then Going for Two Live, the YouTube channel. So lots of great shows. I know in terms of articles, Topher, you write an article typically most weeks looking at again wide receiver rankings through consensus, different thoughts to kind of try and find those edges and matchups.
Absolutely. So come follow me at my Twitter handle shown right below. Topher K4. It's okay. Topher K44. Yeah, all that fun stuff.
FU is giving the thank you, so I wanted to.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Thank you for the university. Jamie at Jamie Perog. Big game, James. That's all I'm talking to you, Jamie.
I just wanted one last thing. Full disclosure: if we're wrong after the fact, at least the process was still correct. Like fantasy football, it's about making the best choices based on what the information we have right now. So stick to the process, because over the long run, that's what leads to wins.
Yeah, not so much reactionary. You look at things on a larger scale, and what are the things you chase, targets, and whatever. Like those are going to be. And again, we talk about some of these cases. These are decisions that we're making in our leagues ourselves. So like we're putting our mouth where our money is, and when we're recommending this, it's like, I'm doing this in my league, and what better, I guess, endorsement than I'm actually doing this myself. So of course I would recommend that. If it's good enough for me to do, it's good enough for me to recommend to other people to do. It's kind of the way I see
exactly.
it. I'm Kyle Senra. Senra says, join me and Gladys and probably Jamie now, who keeps hijacking the show in a great way. I love having Jamie on the Monday night show, who's I guess now basically our third co-host. So you're not quite the Dan replacement, because Dan is irreplaceable, but I guess B-League show. Also check that out 3 times a week on the Going for Two Live Network. Shorter episodes. We of course have blogger shows, the Armchair Fantasy Show, Fantasy Cheat Sheet, Speak on It, all that great stuff on the Going for Two Live Network. But we'll be here every Sunday. Thank you, Topher. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, all the listeners, for joining us for a Sunday morning start-sit stream